reduced the number of tourists coming to see the autumn aspen foliage, which meant Blue Patrol didn't need to worry about nosy outsiders. The bigger concern was that one of their parents would decide to stop by for a visit, perhaps a surprise cookie delivery. Diana Velasquez, the company's marshal, might also decide to check in on the patrol. Connor had said not to worry, that if anyone showed up, they'd improvise. Arlo had to trust that his friends could handle it, because he wouldn't be there. He checked his day pack one last time, confirming it held 2 water bottles, 4 protein bars, a box of waterproof matches, an aluminum emergency blanket, and a bowling ball covered with duct tape. Given how full it was, the pack was lighter than one would expect. He kept his ranger's compass and the spirit knife in his pockets. He knew he'd need to keep them close. "Someone's coming!" Whisper shouted Wu, pointing to a shape making its way down the hill from the road. Everyone tensed up until they could confirm it was who they expected. Arlo checked his watch. 9:19 a.m. His sister was early. She was never early. It was strange to see JC in outdoor gear. She usually wore combat boots and a black high school marching band sweatshirt, but today she was dressed in appropriate hiking gear, including a fleece jacket. "What are we standing around for?" asked JC. "Let's do this." Arlo thought it would have been polite for her to at least introduce herself to the rest of the patrol, but suspected his sister was as nervous as he was. "Send one last text to Mom," said Arlo, "but not a question. You don't want her to text you back." "Why don't you send her a cat meme?" suggested Wu. "Everyone likes cat memes." JC stared at Wu through narrowed eyes. Arlo had gotten this withering look from his sister 1,000 times and knew to ignore it, but he could see it unsettled Wu. Arlo realized he was going to have to watch out for any tension between Wu and his sister. They had a long journey ahead of them. "I'll text her that I can't find my charging cable," said JC. "So when I don't answer, she'll assume my phone is dead." Arlo had to admit that was a pretty clever plan. His sister clearly had practice at this. He had marveled at how easily JC had been able to sell the ruse that she would be sleeping over at a friend's house to work on a class project. How many other not-true stories has JC told over the years? Arlo wondered. He suddenly felt bad about not being honest with his mom about what he was up to this weekend. It wasn't technically a lie, he reminded himself. Blue Patrol really would be camping at the river and testing out the new stoves, but Arlo Finch wouldn't be there. Neither would Henry Wu. If everything went right, they'd be halfway around the world with his sister. Once JC's text was sent and delivered, she turned off her phone. Arlo, Wu, and JC strapped on their day packs and said goodbye to the patrol. "Don't forget to check in when you get back," said Indra. "And don't die," added Julie. Arlo looked to Wu. "You know you don't have to come." While Wu had been instrumental in planning this expedition, it ultimately wasn't his mission. Arlo wouldn't have blamed his friend if he wanted to stay in Pine Mountain. "You seriously think I'm missing this?" Wu pointed his walking stick into the forest. "Let's go." Chapter 2. The City of Lost Things. The Longwoods go everywhere. That was one of the first things Arlo learned upon his arrival in Pine Mountain almost a year earlier. Indra and Wu had explained that the Longwoods weren't part of the normal world, but rather connected to it at thousands of distinct spots around the globe. Later, Arlo had learned how Connor and his cousin had been drawn into the woods as children. That cousin, Rael, would end up living with the mysterious Eldritch, while Connor would emerge from the forest hundreds of miles away in Canada. The strange geography of the Longwoods meant that distances didn't work the same way. You could hike for just a few hours and end up on the other side of the world. That's what Arlo was hoping to do. But first, he had to figure out exactly where he was going. As Arlo, Wu, and JC left the patrol at the banks of the trickling river, Arlo